Now, let's talk to the government. The victims' minister is Alex Davies-Jones, who's on the line now. Hi to you, Alex.
Good evening, John.
Good to have you with us. I'm just picking up on that conversation, which I think you would have been listening to with the Crime Commissioner in Thames Valley. Will you be changing the law so the killers of PC Andrew Harper are not released early?
So we don't need to change the law for the exemptions that were announced this morning from the eligibility for the early release scheme.
In the case of these two killers.
So everything is being kept under review, and if we need to change the law for whatever reason, we will of course work with Parliament to carry out that work. But right now we are ensuring that we have a criminal justice system that works, and I wish we could go further on exemptions. I wish we didn't have to do this in the first place, but sadly the headroom that we have, the capacity that we have in our prison system means that we have no choice but to take action if we are to keep the country safe and to ensure that there is always a prison place available for someone who needs it.
Now, you'll understand, of course, Alex, that I'm keen to get as clear an answer as I can in this conversation. And this is the background, which you will know very clearly. These two young men who were convicted of being involved in the killing of Andrew Harper, that led to a change in the law when it comes to manslaughter involving the killing of emergency workers doing duty, as was the victim in this case. And yet these two men are in line to be released early. You can change the law. We're hearing it can be done very simply. And you're saying you're willing to look at changes in the law where that's warranted. So, very straightforwardly, will you change the law so these two men are not released early? You can give me, can you not, a straightforward answer?
I can tell you that we will review this, but what I can tell you is the situation here and Lissy Harper and PC Harper's family, my heart goes out to them because this is a horrific situation to be in. It is quite right that the driver of the vehicle which killed PC Harper is not eligible for early release. He will be remaining in prison to serve his full sentence. However, the two passengers in that vehicle, as they were convicted of manslaughter and not the new offence that was created because of the campaigning for Harper's Law, which means that anyone who is found guilty of killing an emergency worker is subject to an EDS or a life sentence, which would be exempt from the eligibility criteria. Were that offence now in place for these individuals, then they would not be eligible.
No.
But it isn't so simply as being retroactively able to go back, change the law, because they were still convicted of manslaughter. They would not have been convicted under this new law that exists. That is not the way, sadly, our criminal justice system works. I wish it could, and I wish that we were able to make it so that they weren't eligible for early release. But as I've stated, that capacity within the prison system is as such that if we aren't to take action, then we simply won't have a functioning criminal justice system that works for anyone.
But just tell me with this, these two men were convicted of manslaughter of an emergency worker on duty. Is that not at the very heart of the new law? A crime of exactly that description means a life sentence. It would mean a sentence that would stop an early release.
Yes, you're correct, but sadly that offence did not exist when these two individuals were convicted and were sentenced. And the law does not work retrospectively. That is not the system that we have here. I wish it could. But sadly, I've met so many victims who campaign for new laws and they do so knowing that it won't benefit them. Nothing could ever benefit them and take away their pain. But knowing that they have made the criminal justice system better for the future, for future victims, is a legacy for their loved ones. And this new law that now does exist as a result of the campaigning of PC Harper's family will mean that anyone convicted of such an offence will receive that life sentence.
So you are then being clear that you're saying because to bar these two from or to keep them inside, that would amount to retrospective action, and that is wrong in principle, you say, and therefore it will not happen.
It's because you can't convict them of an offence
that's a right to understand
when they were...
Indeed. You're saying for that reason they will be released early.
I'm saying they are eligible for early release under the current list of exemptions that we've implemented. So we are exempting murderers, we're exempting rapists, certain child sex offenders and those linked to grooming gangs. These are now exempt from the eligibility criteria of the scheme. However, if we could go further, if we didn't have to do this at all and no one would be eligible, that would be the ideal scenario. But sadly, the state of the prison system means we have to take action, John.
I mean, the state indeed. And
we have to.
And that's understood. Our jails are appallingly overcrowded. But now you're telling the widow of Andrew Harper, you're telling his chief constable, you're telling a great many people who think it's wrong, these young men should be released early. You're saying it's unfortunate. Maybe you have sympathy with them, but there's nothing else to be done.
No, I do, and my heart breaks for them. And the Lord Chancellor spoke with the family of PC Harper this morning. He has offered to meet with them to discuss what more we can do, to hear from their experience regarding their victim support, how we can work together. And of course, we will keep everything under review. It is important that we do that. And where we can go further, we will. So, for example, the Prime Minister has asked us to review the IPP prisoners, for example. Is there more we can do there to reform that, to free up places? Can we deport more foreign national offenders quicker, more than we are doing now, more than ever have been deported? But is there a way of doing more there? Can we refunction some of the women's prison estate to free up capacity to move the men into some of that accommodation? All of this is being looked at, and where we have capacity to do more, we will of course do that and keep everything under review.
Okay, but in this case you feel unable to act. Now, there are other cases that have caused a lot of hurt and controversy. Of course, you know that, Alex. So rapists won't be among those who are released early, but those who have been the victims of domestic violence, they will see their attackers, their abusers, released early, which causes, and you know this, it's raised an awful lot of fear among those victims. What can you say to those victims?
I can say to those victims that I'm sorry that they are in this situation. I'm sorry we're all in this situation, that we are having to introduce an eligibility criteria for early release from prison. No one wants to be in this situation, but we have to have a criminal justice system that is truly functioning so that we can arrest people, we can put them through the court system, and we can lock them up. Currently, if we were to let our prisons run to full capacity, none of that would be able to happen. And the domestic abuser who would be arrested would have to be bailed and sent straight back potentially to their victim because there simply wasn't a prison place available. I won't allow that to happen, John, and I will not allow our entire criminal justice system to fall apart at the seams simply because we didn't take the really difficult but necessary responsible actions of a government running towards problems because that's what we have to do. We can't bury our heads in the sand here and not deal with the difficult situations and the impossible challenge in front of us, but we have to, because that's what is a responsible government in order to keep our country safe.
Right, can I put to you what the Conservative opposition leader, Kemi Badenoch, presents as a possible way to relieve some of the pressure? Kemi Badenoch says, well, what about renting prison space in foreign prisons? What do you say to that suggestion?
I would say... If the leader of the opposition doesn't think that every single lever is being pulled here possible, then she is highly mistaken. And I will take no lectures or advice from the leader of the opposition who was in government and who failed to get to grips with this crisis. The Conservatives.
But what about that suggestion, Alex? What about that suggestion, if I may?
It has been looked at. It is one of the... Of course it has. All options have been looked at here, John. We are being as transparent as possible. And we have looked at what is physically possible of doing. Of course we have. And nothing would be off the table to look at. But what we are doing now is taking that action that we need to.
Are you reading out that option in a word?
Yes.
And that is, I suppose, as clear as it could be. Alex Davies-Jones, the Victims Minister. Thank you for joining me on the programme.
Thank you, John.